The first concept art of the KMG Afterburner was released in October of 1997. The Afterburner uses the same claw-like structure as the KMG Move It 24, which debuted 1 year prior to the Afterburner, with 6 gondolas that each seat 4 people. The Afterburner can swing up to an angle of 120 degrees, and the claw can rotate at a maximum of 15 revolutions per minute. The ride is transported on 2 trailers and takes roughly 3 to 4 hours to set up with 3 people.
The first Afterburner debuted in 1998 at the fair in Basixx in the Netherlands. The prototype was named Beach Body and it was owned by Dutch showman Van Lith. The Afterburner was an immediate success. KMG produced about 10 of them in just the first 2 years. KMG has constructed at least 43 trailer-mounted Afterburners and 4 park versions. One of these park versions, It at Maurice Piers, which opened in 2011, has a lap bar restraint system, unlike the usual over-the-shoulder restraints. This is currently the only Afterburner that has this type of restraint. In 2016, KMG introduced a second generation of the Afterburner with some minor improvements to the design. The most notable visual difference is that the top of the main arm is square and not round like on the old design.
In July 2017, a major accident happened with a KMG Afterburner at the Ohio State Fair. Rust caused by the ride's flawed outdoor storage design and a lack of inspection on the inside of the sweep arms caused one arm of a KMG Afterburner owned by Amusements of America to break off during a ride cycle. This accident ended up completely changing how rides are inspected in the state of Ohio, and it has had a ripple effect through the entire industry. KMG shortly after issued a service bulletin mandating frequent inspections of the area that failed, followed by a full refurbishment of the sweep arms with modification after the fair season ended. You can watch the What Really Happened video on this accident to learn more about it.
And in 2001, KMG built the Afterburner 32, which is a slightly bigger version of the original Afterburner. It has 8 gondolas instead of 6, making for a capacity of 32 riders per cycle. After the prototype was set up at the KMG factory for testing, it was built at Thorpe Park in the UK, and it remains to be the only Afterburner 32 built by KMG. On KMG's site, the ride is referred to as Vortex, and it's offered as a park version, but also as a transportable version if that's wished.
This exact model of Afterburner has also been produced by Chance Rides under license from KMG. Chance named it the Revolution 32. The first Revolution 32 was constructed by Chance and made its debut in 2002 at California's Great America under the name Delirium. 3 other Revolution 32s were built. An interesting fact is that the Chance Revolution 32 runs a lot slower than KMG's Afterburner 32. The Chance version runs at 9 revolutions per minute, while KMG says theirs rotates at 15 revolutions per minute. Chance does not seem to produce the Revolution 32 since it is no longer mentioned on their website. Now, Chance does still produce multiple versions of the Afterburner. These are also under license from KMG. These ones are named the Revolution 20 and Revolution 16. However, on Chance's current site, it all falls under the designation of the Revolution 20. This ride is designed to be a less expensive way for American parks to get an Afterburner. Unlike the KMG Afterburner, the Revolution 20 comes standard with 4 gondolas, but can be upgraded to a maximum of 5 for a total of 20 riders per cycle. Some riders also claim that the Revolution 20 is less intense, and that the restraints are less comfortable than the traditional Afterburner. The Revolution 20 is only available as a park version, as it requires a pit dug under the ride so that the large lowering floor can be added. The Revolution 20 can swing up to 120 degrees and reaches heights of 68 feet or 20.7 meters. These rides can be found at many American parks, such as Nickelodeon Universe at Mall of America. Chance Rides still produce the Revolution 20, however, with increased competition from other manufacturers and the low capacity of the smaller version of the Revolution, it's unclear if any more will be sold.
There is some very close competition to the Afterburner. Take for example Fabri's Space Jam or Zamperla's Discovery 24, which are both very similar to KMG's Afterburner. However, they never came close to being as successful as the Afterburner.
Now moving on to the ride experience a little bit. I have never experienced a KMG version of this ride, unfortunately. I just haven't really been to a fair where there's been one operating that I wanted to really ride. I hope to change that soon. I have been on a Chance version, and we'll get to that in a moment. But first, we're going to go to Alex, who has ridden multiple of the KMG version of the Afterburner.
I have been on 5 Afterburners, which are all trailer models. However, one of them was in a park at Drivlit, and just all of the Afterburners I experienced were really, really good. The forces you get when it swings on the bottom, very great positives. And when you swing up, you get some really, really great airtime. You really get thrown out of your seat, and then you get completely pushed in your seat when you swing down. It's amazing. The claw can spin very fast, it's super forceful. It's an extremely enjoyable ride. If you ever see one, be sure to ride it, it's really worth it. I love Afterburners. I'm lucky enough to have one at my local fair almost every year. Like, it's at my doorstep, 3-minute walk, and I'm on an Afterburner. It's amazing.
Afterburners are very popular here in the US at fairs as well. You can find them at many, many, many different traveling fairs. I do hope to ride one soon, but in the meantime, as I said before, I have been on a Chance Revolution 32, the Claw at Hershey Park. Now this ride was really pretty good. For a pendulum of its size, it's probably the best one that I've done. Now, it has really, really good airtime in my experience, but the positives really were not as spectacular as I was hoping, perhaps. It was definitely noticeable, but I wouldn't say it was better than like a Zamperla MIDI Discovery Revolution or something like that, or even an SBF version. It was much more focused on the airtime than it is on the positives. It's still a good ride, though. Definitely enjoyed it. The floor design is very interesting. It seems very inefficient. Basically, the entire floor like swivels up underneath the ride, which just causes a big pit to be under the ride. I mean, it works, I guess. It just seems a little bit inefficient. It takes quite a while for it to lower before the ride can start cycling as well, which I could imagine would be a serious problem for the lower capacity versions of these rides. Obviously, Hershey Park has the 32, which is at least a little bit better. But again, it was a very fun ride for its size. It's probably my favorite small pendulum, and again, better than a lot of the other small pendulum offerings. So definitely a good ride, and if you do get the chance to ride it, go for it. I know a lot of people say that it's not as good as the KMG versions, and that may very well be the case, but I think it's still definitely worth a ride if you do see one, especially if you've never been on one of the KMG versions, or if you just want to compare the two. But that is about everything that we have on the Afterburners and the derivatives of the design. Thank you for watching this episode of Flat Ride of the Week, and we will see you next week.